You go get the words, go get them.
AJ want everything he can. I'll be the one to take the risk and go and get the bands. I'll be the one that never sit, no one make a plan. Knowing my mother getting older now, I got no time. Gotta keep a couple for the rollers that was left behind.
Yeah.
To the hundreds, pledge allegiance, I stand. I'm a GoPro
for the fucking white sand. I give it all to this fucking mic stand.
If it's been done before,
Then I know I can.
Hey,
I'm on brother trying to keep a level head. She begging me to give me neck.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yo, what's the deal, y'all? Hope all is well. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Duke.
I'm Omar. I'm Jalan, and this is another episode of number one podcast in all of Los Angeles. Nice and neat. My blood brothers. What's going on, you guys?
What's the dilly, bro?
Oh, man. We are back for another episode. We are coming off of the heels of some incredible engagement. Thanks to all of you guys. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And this episode, we're going to be speaking directly to you guys. We had a post, a viral post, an official viral post. I don't know the definition of viral.
That shit viral.
But this was that.
I asked that question. I think, okay.
It's beyond viral.
Okay.
It's beyond viral.
When does it get officially viral?
There's no number on officially viral.
I guess it all depends on how small your
Let's just say
page
on
is.
Instagram.
On Instagram, I feel like 1 million is viral.
Okay, so look, perfect.
I feel like 1 million is viral.
So we like 10 times platinum.
Yeah.
Remember when
About to go
we were on an episode and we like, yo, thank you guys for allowing us to get to 1 million. We got to 1 million. Then we looked up, we got to 2.5. Then we got to 5, went to 10.
It was at 10.
Went to 11, 12, 13, 14, and counting.
Yeah.
It was something on there, though, that I thought was very interesting on this post specifically. This post, if you aren't familiar with what we're talking about, Duke essentially was, I asked Duke, he got off the phone with Chanel. I was like, dang, Chanel calls you for everything. And he was like, yeah, she does. Pause, real time, right? Then he says, yo, you got to lean into when your girl calls you because obviously that's a space of vulnerability for her, which makes me the trusted one for her, right? There's work that has to be done before you can even get to that thought process. It's not Duke woke up and he said, hey, yo, when my girl called me, I'm always available, I'm answering, I'm ready to problem solve. Like, nah, it's work to get to the point that you're at, Omar, in your relationship. It didn't just happen overnight. You didn't just become the provider that you are overnight. There was things that happened and there were certain steps that happened within your relationship. I think this episode is extremely important, fellas, because we are going to be talking about the context that lives inside of a lot of the statements that we say. Mm-hmm. How did we get to the statement? Through the context. How did our partner get to receiving the statement? Through the context that we're going to have today. Dude, first and foremost, I'm going to talk to you nice, bruh, because 12 million in counting. You can't say too many podcasts that's just throwing clips out there that's giving 12 million plus.
Come on, man.
I don't see them.
I don't see them. If you guys see them, kudos to you guys. But Nice and Neat got 12 million. Engagement is incredible. Thank you guys again. Dude, for you, where did the context live in that statement? Where did it come from? What work was put in for you to achieve that? And what work was put in on the back end for your woman to get you to that point? What were those conversations? How'd y'all get there?
All right, so I'll try to unpack it, in departments. So the comments stem from, I'm speaking about how it's a privilege to be that person for your woman, who calls a lot. First of all, Chanel doesn't call me for any and everything. She's not helpless. You know what I'm saying? She's a whole entrepreneur. She's not no damsel in distress, right? But in this case, in the case that we're talking about, just like, yo, she just calls me for anything. It could be a grocery run. It could be, some car issue. It could be anything, right?
It could be tea.
It could be, yeah.
It could be tea.
It could be tea. But in the context of those things, it's like, yo, it's a privilege for me to be her to be that for her. All right. And here's why. Being a leader is not a right. I'm not entitled to it. Right. I don't wake up. I can't. It's not like I didn't wake up and say, yo, I deserve this. Right. And when a woman submits to you, she says, hey, listen, I trust you so much. I love you so much. I defer to you so much. And you are the leader. And that's why I'm calling you for any and everything, right? And that's an honor. That's a privilege, right? And that's where it stemmed from. It didn't stem from, I'm so lucky to be in this position, that like a lot of people took it, right? So that's kind of the context of what I meant. And just me fully embracing my role as a leader, as a protector, right? Someone that got this household. But I think I have to speak on how I got there from her perspective, right? I'm only able to do that because she let her guard down, right? And she was able to say, you know what? Let me not try to be this strong woman. Let me not try to resist this man's effort to lead this household. Any trust issues I have, let me kind of put them on the back burner and at the very least allow him to mess up, right? At the very least. But on her end, she had to do a lot of work internally to get to that space. And I think what we want to lean into in this episode is trying to get some women to say, yo, like, what do I need to do to get my man or a man to be whatever it is I want him to be for me, right? That's the premise of the episode. So I think that, it's going to be very important that we all just take everything we say, with some love, So, but that's kind of my take. That was my take, man. It's just like I just assumed the role of leadership, and she allowed me to do that. But she had to do a lot of work on her end, and I don't want people to just, I'm seeing comments like, where are these men at?
Yeah.
Or you guys see this a lot, right? Does he have a brother?
Yep.
Things like that. And it kind of almost,
Ooh, child.
it kind of almost insinuates that, like, hey, I am ready to receive a man like that, right? And I'm ready. I'm fully equipped to receive a man like that. Now, I think that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of work that has to go on internally as an individual to get that.
Well said. Well said. And I really like how you put, what do I need to do as a woman? Mm-hmm. What do I need to do in order to get my man or a man to do what I need him to do for me? Mm-hmm. And in that, I feel a great word to just start with. It's just like that, the accountability of that statement. That's a very accountable statement. What do I need to do? In therapy, they talk a lot of times about using your I statements. Rather than throwing out blame, your I statements now are able to speak to you and what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, where are these men? It's like, man, what do I need to do to attract these men?
For sure, it's a completely different take.
That's a completely different take, because I assure you that whether you're even in the phases, and I think it's important to speak about these phases, even in the phases of going from single to a relationship, that statement you said still doesn't happen. That statement was something that was taught to you. The reason why you're saying, yo, this is something that I should lean into, is because quite possibly it could have been something that you once didn't, and you learned, like, hey, yo, the flow of my relationship flows better when I lean into these things, actually. Mm-hmm. When I eliminate my ego and how it makes me feel, when I just worry about what can I do for her to make her feel good. Mm-hmm. And I heard you say, she submits in this space, but like, you submit too in that space.
Right.
And I feel like that's what the important part is. We're so focused on like what one person is doing rather than what can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do in this space? And like a lot of the comments, I know we talked about these comments, you know, like I sat up with Brittany and we talked about these comments for hours and just like.
And these comments were positive though. Like these are positive.
There was a
comments.
lot of positive comments in
But
there.
there's underlying tones that come with the comments that we kind of just gotta point out.
Definitely want to, like, we have to be clear in the work. Omar, you talk about work all the time. There's so much work that comes from that statement. And I feel like we have to do a better job on speaking of the work that's behind the statements that we say.
For sure.
Because there's so much context in that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much context in that. It's like something as small as we're together. Dang, Chanel call you for everything. Like, it could have been, because I even, you know what? I seen a comment and it was like, man, why did your friend say that? Because now what if you guys now say like, yeah, she do call me, and this leads to the demise in your relationship? That's not how I said the statement.
Correct.
That's not how I said the statement. It was like, yo, Chanel calls you for everything. Yeah, she trusts me, bro. And we have a conversation off of the back of that.
We had a whole dialogue.
We had a whole dialogue. That's why I said pause time.
Yeah.
And then you have to, there's so many moments that creates, yo, this is how I then respond to this now.
Right.
You're in year.
We're in 4 right now.
Cool.
Right.
You're going into year 5.
Yep. At the end of the year. Yep.
At the end of the year, you'll be in year 5. Is this how you responded to that in month 5?
No. No.
God, no.
So
Nah.
So with that being said, there was progression.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like there was frustration in the amount of phone calls that came through?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's new. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to handle it. You know, you haven't even gone through your own inner evolution. You feel me? And you haven't even, like I said, tapped into that perspective where you are looking at a woman as almost your responsibility. Not in the sense that, yo, this is your daughter, but when you commit to a woman and you say, all right, this is where we want to go in our lives, and if I believe in a traditional male-female dynamic and I want to assume that leadership's not convenient. So if we really believe that leadership is not convenient, all right, then I need to step up in inconvenient times. All right. And maybe it's something small, like, cause let's be real, phone calls is small, right? But it's still a version of submission, and me stepping into it is still a version of leadership. All right. So I try to just be real about my intentions and what I want out of life, and do whatever I got to do to fill that role and you know, play that part wholeheartedly. Right. So that's always been my thing. But it didn't start off like that. And she did a lot of work, right? I know Candace did a lot of work, right? How did that go for you?
Well, how did what go?
Well, your experience.
It's layered.
It's
right?
layers.
Your experience with, you know, cause you have, you know, there's different nuances in your life and your relationship that you can be like, yo, like I'm privileged to be able to do this as well. You know, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'd say my woman did a great job of having open communication about what she needed from me and who I needed to be. But just like you, it did not happen overnight. There was a lot of growing pains. There was actually things that she, that she wanted me to do that I constantly made the mistake of not doing over and over again, right? Something as little as, and I hate using this word, but like, or this phrase, but like the check-in, right? Something as simple as just checking in, just to make sure that you're good, that you're safe, everything's okay. Like as a man, you're not used to checking in with nobody.
Yeah.
You're not used to telling anybody about your whereabouts unless you absolutely want to. So having to put yourself in that state of mind, coming from not doing it, could get very like, it seemed like tedious. It seems like a task almost. It's like, yo, it feels like homework. It feels like homework, and none of us like homework. No one wants to do homework, but as you start to take deeper steps into the relationship with your woman, you realize that it's like, yo, if I want to be happy and if I want to make this woman happy, then I got to kind of start leaning into the things that she wants and the things that she's expecting of me to be, even if it makes me uncomfortable, even if it makes it feel like it is homework. Over time, after doing it over and over again, it becomes just second nature.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
It's not even a task anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? But those things take time, bro. It doesn't happen. And in fact, when it does happen initially, I was kind of upset by it.
Yeah.
Like, yo, do we have to do that? Is it going to be a real issue if I don't do that within our relationship? And like, that's actually a question you don't even want to have answered. You know what I mean? That's like a rhetorical question in a sense. But man, I think my woman did just an awesome job of just walking me through it, of what works for her and how to be the perfect, or not the perfect, but how to be the best for her. You know what I mean? And if you don't have that open communication with your woman or with your partner, it's kind of hard to even get to this point where it seems like you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
Without the open communication, without being honest and forthcoming with information, you guys will never get there, and it would be just constant friction. So, yeah, I think my woman just did a great job of walking me through the steps and the processes for her. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think when women look at men and they say, okay, that guy's a leader, right? That's a man's man. You know, you don't want to negate the work that I don't never want to negate the work that my woman's doing. Right? She's the same way that I put in 4 years plus of work. She's done the same thing. Okay. She's been patient. She's had grace. She's had to look in the mirror and say, "Oh, Chanel, like, how can you do your part to further this relationship?" You know what I mean? And I think that there has to be a realization on both parties. The only way that we're going to get to a point where my woman is fully in her feminine and my man is fully in his masculine, as we both individually have to cultivate those spaces for each other to exist. All right. Otherwise, we always going to be looking on Instagram and looking at all these other couples and, you know, talking about what we like out of what we're seeing, but we're not really doing our part to cultivate that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's unfair, right? And I was talking to Chanel about this, and you know, she feel the type of way because everyone just that comment and that post, it just made it seem like it made it seem like the success of our relationship just falls on my shoulders. But that's not true.
I can see that.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, that's what it makes it seem, you know?
And
That's
I know that's not the case.
And
that's
not the
why
case,
we are here
right?
having this conversation.
And that's not the case, because the success of our relationship and what y'all see and what the world sees is not just a product of my effort, right? There's a whole, like, people don't see the 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you know, arguments where she's like, you know what, listen, I'm going to suck it up this time. All right. I'm going to suck it up this time. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to initiate this, you know, us fixing this friction. There's a lot of work, you know. I'm going to concede to what you want. You know, I'm not going to combat everything that you say just because I'm a woman and I feel like my feelings, you know, supersede, you know, your logic, right? That's very important. You know what I mean? Your tone. Like, I'm not, like, you have, like, when I got with Chanel early on, we would have disagreements and her tone wasn't the tone that I aligned with. So she had to do the work as far, like I said, yeah, if you want to be with me, if you think this gonna work with me, then you gotta fix that. You know? And that's something she had to really work at in order to progress with me. And some women will be like, I'm me. Some women
That's lacking accountability.
That's lacking
That's
accountability.
lacking accountability. That's just taking the easy way out. That's what you say. That's not exercising those I statements.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like when you really do start to exercise those I statements, it's really hard not to become the best version of yourself.
Hard.
Like honestly, that's like a great place to start. Just like address those I statements every time. Because if you just bring your best version of yourself to the situation, it'll start to rise the level in the area that you at. You know what I mean? Even if amongst our relationship, right? I think I want to go in on that. You know what I mean? On the accountability part, because that's what we're saying is that we feel like, and I don't want to like throw them under the bus, but that's what we're saying, that women are almost lacking in a sense, right? They're lacking accountability in a lot of different areas where they're kind of just making us feel like we are the only ones responsible for the accountability in the situation. But that's not the case. You know, women are also got to be held accountable for their actions, for their thoughts, for their due diligence, for their processes, for being thorough. They have to be accountable for that. It's not just that accountability just doesn't fall on a man's shoulders. And if it does, well, it probably won't last long. You know what I mean? But we got to start turning the point. And I hate this like pointing the finger because it's like I'm blaming, but I'm not blaming. Right?
Spotlight maybe.
Maybe just turn to the spotlight. Let's put the spotlight on you guys for a second.
Let's bring a mirror in.
There we go.
That's even better.
Bring a mirror
There we go.
That's
there we
even
go.
better. And you know what? Like you can't let the default position of leadership, like you can't let a man's like the position of leadership be your excuse to not
For not getting better?
For not getting better. You get what I'm saying? You can't do that.
Why do you think they would feel like that in the first place? Because the man is leading, so therefore I don't have to do no work.
I think
like I don't have to do as much work because he's doing the majority of the work for us, or like
I think it's very common. It's a very common idea that if a relationship is healthy, it's because a man is doing what he's supposed to be doing. You get what I'm saying? That's a common idea.
Yeah.
It's like, yo,
that's fair.
I'm good. I think there's ideas, if you're a woman, it's like, I'm good. Every relationship I'm going to be in is going to be good. It just depends on the man.
And that's crazy.
You get what I'm saying? And I don't think that's right.
It's not.
I don't think that's right.
It's not, because it's almost like, it's in a sense, and like on the same side of that, it's like most people will generally say that women are like more emotionally intelligent than men, right? But that doesn't mean that all women know how to process their feelings. A lot of women don't know how to process feelings, right? Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you process feelings. Just because, and that's the same thing I guess I'm trying to say with what you're saying. It's like, just because a man is a man doesn't mean he should only be held accountable. Just because a man is a man doesn't mean he should only be the leader, right? And just because a woman is a woman doesn't mean she's great at processing feelings. Like a lot of us have to go through the work of learning how to do these things properly. It doesn't just mean just because you're a man or you're a woman, you're destined to be great at these things, right? It takes work, and you constantly have to like work at it. If a lot of us aren't good at these things naturally, right? We come from broken homes. You know what I mean? We don't have the ability to tap into our emotions fully and express those things. Those things take work to learn how to do. You know what I mean? And we can't just assume that just because she's a woman, she knows how to do that. And they can't just assume because we're men that we're going to be great at these things. Right.
Yeah, I think there's levels to accountability.
For sure.
And in what you told me, Candace had a requirement and she had an expectation, but before the expectation, she had a competence to know what that expectation was. Like she was competent in knowing what that expectation was, but then also she had to see if you were competent enough in seeing if you can achieve that expectation. It was certain things that she had to see like, yo, can he achieve what my expectations are? Right? And in understanding if you can achieve those expectations, she showed patience because this is what her expectation is. I think something very important when it comes to the expectations. It's important to have expectations. It's very important to have expectations because I think expectations are a level in accountability. But in having expectations, you have to clearly articulate what those expectations are, and you have to be patient in those expectations. I know that I felt a plethora of times in my relationship with things that Brittany expected. but she had grace as I was learning those things. One thing that I know I adopt is progression over perfection.
Ooh, me too.
So if I could see like, yo, they did take a step in the right direction. When they fall short again, it's like, but it wasn't as bad as it was last time. You know, oh, you said the check-in, right? There's intricacies in the check-in. For example, it could be like, hey, yo, let me know when you're on your way home. You might call her 10 hours later, and it's like, really? You're just on your way home? And you're like, well, you said,
You told me when I was on my
let
way
me know
home.
when you're on your way home. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what you did between when you left the house and when you're on your way home. So now you're like, okay, how clear do we need to get in the check-ins? Like, would you like me to let you know when I leave, like, spot to spot? You know, is it like at a couple hours check-in? And as silly as that may sound to somebody, having clarity in the way that you communicate with your partner, that doesn't happen overnight. There is, for example, every day I leave the shop, I'll call Brittany. I didn't call anybody else before that.
Yeah.
That was just like my time. I'm just drive home and I'm silent. That's what make her feel comfortable. That's a part of our relationship. Did that happen overnight? Was that just a desire that I just woke up with? Nah, but it was an expectation of hers.
It's crazy. Even if you guys talk about the expectations, there's still things that you guys have to just experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's certain things we could talk about that we and it show up later like, damn, we weren't able to cover that. You know what I mean? A lot of things pop up just randomly, just through random experiences. You know, like you guys could talk about an expectation that you guys have amongst each other and still have a hiccup within the relationship because a particular experience brought something up that you guys weren't able to cover with those expectations that you guys talked about. And I think that happens all the time. You know,
All the time.
So like there's certain things that you just gonna have to experience to learn. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to grow through those things with your partner. It'd be an impossible, I think, to just lay everything out on paper with your partner and say, hey, this is the checklist, this is everything that we gotta go over, and then not expect anything else to ever pop up. That's not realistic. Right. That's not life. Life is so unexpected, and you could try to plan for as much as you want, but you can't plan the unexpected. You know what I mean? And the unexpected is where the growth happens. It's where we get closer. Like that's where the magic happens within the relationship.
Speaking of that, you know, and it's just like a plant, right? Plants grow under stress. That's how plants grow. I've noticed every single hiccup that I've experienced in my relationship, it brought us so much closer.
Closer.
It was like, yo, and it might have been something that you look at and it's like, yo, we're both afraid to talk about it. And then we get to a point to where it's like, yo, we can't even avoid talking about it now. Now we have to talk about it. And now we clash. And now we have to communicate with one another. And now we have to show grace to one another. And we have to be patient with one another. And now it's like, I've seen her patience so much, it's activated my patience. She's seen my patience so much, it activated her patience. But this wasn't just some, you know, I'm the leader of our relationship and I put a flag down and I'm like, this is how it's going to happen. And as a damsel in distress, she just clutches her pearls and says, okay, Jelon, we're going to move like this. And I feel like a lot of times when we have statements and we say things on this show, people look and people listen and they feel like that's what happened because that's the fairy tale that we put on love. We put this fairy tale on love as if, hey, yo, this is the way that it's supposed to go. And when it's going like this, it happened because it was just a linear experience. And there's no linear experiences in love.
In life.
There's no linear experiences in life. And when you encounter those moments of, yo, what do I want to do here? I feel like a lot of people run away from those moments. You know, and since we're just talking about accountability in people, you should like look inside of yourself and understand when you encounter something that you don't like with somebody who you've assessed the risk reward factor and you say, yo, I feel like this person is worth it. And you encounter something that you don't like, but you're like, I didn't like that, so I'm going to leave. Like, were you running from the work or were you actually running from the person? And I think that's extremely important to assess. A lot of us run from the work because we got to look again, instead of shifting that spotlight, we got to shift the mirror and look at ourselves and be like, what do I need to change? There's been so many moments in my relationship that I had to look in the mirror and I was like, that guy's ugly. I know we've had conversations.
Multiple.
I know you looked in the mirror and you said,
Oh.
that guy's ugly. Right?
Oh,
Correct.
couldn't stand the guy I was looking at.
Couldn't stand it. And that's what the hardest part is.
Yep.
Is shifting that guy who you've been comfortable with or shifting that woman who you've been comfortable with. And that's the person that allows you to point the finger. Use your I statements. What can I do to make this better?
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. It's important that you're able to identify the you that you don't like. You get what I'm saying? So that ugly part, that ugly person you're talking about, right then and there, I don't like how that feels. In order for us to move forward, I know I can't bring this guy with me. I got to do whatever I can, not you, me. I got to do whatever I can to show up as the best version of myself to push us forward, with or without you. And I think a lot of times women have contingencies, right? It's always, I'm going to be the best version of myself as long as he's the best version of himself. You feel me? Where accountability is, I'm going to be the best version of myself no matter what. No matter what. So then if we work or don't work, at least I can say that I gave 100% effort. I committed to this and I can live with this.
You can live with that.
I can live with that, right? And I feel like when you get the end, I don't want to say end result, but when you get the public display of love and everyone champions it, no one thinks about
The work.
the cultivation process. No one thinks about it's like you right now, right? You got strong, like healthy dreads, right? How long you been growing dreads?
15 years.
15 years. At some point in that process, there was an ugly stage in the dreads, right?
That's when you asked me that. Yes, I was just talking about this today, literally.
At some point, everyone I know that has dreads say, man, there was a point where I want to cut it all off.
Yeah. There was a point where other people were telling me to cut it off.
But what'd you do? You stuck with it.
I stuck with my plan.
You stuck with your plan,
I stuck with my plan.
right? Even though it was uncomfortable,
Yeah.
even though you may not have liked what you saw, you just stuck with your plan. And now you have what you have. And you kind of equate that to relationships, right? So you can equate that same thing to relationships, you know? So I feel like that's how I kind of look at relationships, and I would expect, you know, I just want people to not take relationships for face value.
The thing is with that dude, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, but I had a plan. So I guess it's really easy for me to, even though I know it's gonna be ugly, even though I know it's gonna be hard, and a lot of people are not gonna accept it at first. It was easy for me to go through that because I had a plan. You know what I mean? So are we saying that in order for people, women, to be more accountable, they should have a better plan going into their situations?
I don't want to say a better plan, but
Or a plan? I'm saying a plan. Oh, because maybe women don't have a plan.
yeah, I don't know, right? But when I think about the example, I'm just saying, like, you are going to hit parts, you're going to hit stages in that evolution where you're just ready to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And that could come in the form of arguing a lot. That can come in the form of, you know, we just got bad communication. That could come in the form of bad habits, annoyance, phone call, anything. You get what I'm saying? And I think that that is part of the work that you got to go through to get to the end result, or the glamorous part, or the highlights of love, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's what you got to go through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So back to the original post for you, I thought it was interesting to where it was like, yo, everybody was able to admire how far you came, and not even how far you came. Everybody was able to admire who you currently are as a man,
even though they don't know me.
And essentially disregard the work, right? Yeah. And on the flip side, disregard the level of vulnerability that your partner is giving you to be able for you to even show up in that way. There's vulnerability in that. I seen a couple of comments and people were able to pick that up, and I commend those people that are able to pick that up because you're able to have a certain foresight when it comes to relationship.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Understanding that, hey, yo, this isn't a one-way street. You know, like the reliance or even your partner being able to lean on you and you being receptive to it, but they dropping their guard. So it's not like, I don't know if I want to give them that. I don't know if I want to give them that level of vulnerability. These relationships, people, require a lot of vulnerability, and not just from a man, and not just the vulnerability that as a woman you bring into the relationship from the jump.
Right.
It's vulnerability for this specific person.
Right.
That vulnerability, and you won't know that until you're with that specific person.
Right.
And that vulnerability is a journey. And you guys are going to seesaw back and forth until you guys can fully let each other's guards down, and you get to a point to where you say, babe, I had a terrible day today. And it sounds silly. I had a terrible day today. Why'd you have a terrible day today? I couldn't think of a caption. And I wanted to get this post off, and I just couldn't get this post off. As silly as that may sound to somebody, there's a level of vulnerability in that it's like, this person's not going to think I'm stupid for that. It's like, so when I say, yo, Chanel call you for everything, dude, it can be something that tedious. There's security in knowing that your partner could just laugh with you or to even just talk you through that space. But you guys are both playing a part in that. You guys are both playing a part in Candace saying, hey, yo, I want you to check in. All right, cool. And you learning what that check-in process looks like through experiences. I'm sure you failed plenty of times. I'm sure you forgot. I'm sure that it wasn't top of mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you drove home and didn't tell her before because there was resentment there because you didn't feel like you should be calling her. I'm sure all of those things happen. But Candace could be with her friend and you could be like, hey, babe, I'm on my way home. Do you want me to grab you some food? And her friend could look at her and be like, wow, I want a man like that.
But has no idea what happened 3-4 years prior to that conversation.
Nah.
Yeah.
And those are the intricacies and the nuances in relationship that when you hear a statement, that's what we speaking from. That's where we speaking from.
Yeah.
We're speaking from the work that us and our partners have put in to get us to the point to where like, yo, I could sit in front of the camera and be like, yo, we got to the next stage, because there's another stage where there's people who are married out there for 15, 20 years and they be like, okay, they just now getting it. They just now getting it. They're going to deal with so many more things. You know, you always speak about talking to people who are in places of where you want to go. I talk to older married men all the time, and they are very proud of us. They're very proud of what we're doing on this show. They really admire your takes, they really admire your takes, Duke, and they really enjoy what we do. But they also remind me, this is just the beginning.
Yep.
This is just the beginning. But they do also say like, yo, I wish I had a space when I was at my points in my relationship that I could have with my homies. He was like, I think things could have been much more smoother.
Yep.
So he was like, don't think you're out of the wilderness, but by you guys having this circle and you guys are talking and you guys are working through these things and bringing it to the forefront, you guys are on the right track.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want people to understand that these things that we are talking about is the end result of the work. This is us holding up the Super Bowl trophy without you realizing what training camp looked like, what the offseason looked like, how many locker room fights happened. You know, then when you guys start off the season 1-4 and now we get to the Super Bowl. Those are the things that people are not seeing. Right. All you're seeing is the podium. Yeah. And that's not where we want to speak from.
Yeah. The podium is enticing. You know, people love love winners. You know, it's enticing. But that work though, that's what champions are built.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking as you guys are talking, you know, I've learned so much from you guys from just the discussions that we have. And I'm not just talking about here at Nice and Neat. I mean, we've been doing this Nice and Neat shit for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think about all the times, all the discussions that we've ever had and just how I've been able to get better from our discussions. Yeah. And I can't help but think and wonder, like, and question, do women have those same type of discussions? But it also, at the same time, I kind of like know the answer. See, for us as men, it's really easy for us to be like open about our situations. I feel like women are a lot more closed off because they don't really trust women. Like, at least what I hear from when I speak to women, it's like, I don't want to tell that woman everything because I just can't trust her. I never feel like that with around men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe a particular man, but I guess that's not the man I'm talking about. But like even in close circles, I rarely hear women having open, vulnerable conversations about their relationship. Wow. Maybe it's not for us to hear, but I rarely even hear about them talking about like get the word back, like, hey, we were having this discussion. Whereas I could go back and tell Candace, like, man, me and the fellas today, we was talking about this particular situation about, you know, just staying committed, man, and just like how hard it is and the sacrifices men got to make. I rarely, if ever, hear that on the other end. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think women. Here's the thing. I think women have those conversations.
You think so?
I don't think women hold each other accountable the same way we do, though. Here's why. We receive criticism at a far greater clip than women do, right? Part of that comes from playing sports.
Absolutely.
All right? Part of that comes from just being men. I don't think women, part of the accountability is to put yourself in positions where other women can be honest with you. All right? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
You following?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to hold myself, part of me holding myself accountable is going to talk to people that are going to hold me accountable.
Yep.
All right? So now I can come back with corrected behavior back to my woman. So I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like when women have conversations with other women about things they're going through, they're more coddled and championed. And it's gonna be okay. He's wrong.
He's wrong.
Right? Not and it's not that the women, it's not malicious. It's just that women know that I'm dealing with another woman. So I gotta be delicate with her emotions because she may be hyperreactive.
But women, that's not helping y'all though.
Right.
That's not helping y'all.
Correct.
That's not helping us get better. That's not helping us further along our relationships.
But she may be hyperreactive, okay? And I'm pretty sure all women have friends where they can't really tell them they're doing something wrong because they don't know how to handle criticism. So they just much rather just kind of side with them, right?
What kind of friend is that though?
It's probably one that's trying to protect your emotions.
That's not a good friend, bro.
Or protect our space. You get what I'm saying? I know this. I know that Jalon may say something to me that I really don't like right now, but in 5 hours, I'll forget about it. And all I'll care about is if I got better.
In 5 hours, you may be like, he right.
That's all I'll care about.
Yeah.
You feel me? But I feel like there's women, a lot of women fall out with each other because of accountability.
The truth.
Because they tell each other the truth. Damn, am I lying? There's a lot of women that fall out with each other and stop being friends because one woman was honest. You know? And I think that that accountability word, man, that's a big one. We always talk about that. But let me ask you this. Do you think accountability is a trigger word for women?
I think so.
Do you think accountability is a trigger word for women?
I feel like when women automatically hear accountability, they instantly think, I haven't done my part. And when women, I feel like once women feel like I haven't done my part, they go into this shell. When they go into this shell, they shut off. And when they shut off, we no longer could like progress or get any better with the conversation or move get past the situation. I feel like accountability is a trigger word for my woman. I feel like every time I decide to use it, it puts us in a situation where we're now in a disagreement. So I feel like even though it is a constructive word and it's a word that needs to be said and needs to be used, we as men have to find the right way
Another word.
to deliver it. And that's crazy to even say it like that. But I mean, that's the truth. I mean, how do y'all feel about that? I feel like that's not a guaranteed fact within my relationship.
Yeah.
It's an issue. You accountable. I'm not doing my part. You know what I mean? It becomes really, really personal.
Yeah.
Whereas just like you said, man, I think because we grew up playing sports. A lot of boys grow up playing sports, play sports as adult or as teenagers, and some of us are lucky enough to play it as men, right? Because you play these sports for so long, or even have a taste of it.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to accept it and not take the criticism personal.
Yeah. So yes, I do think it's a trigger word. All right. There is a complex with women, and there's a need to be perfect. Perfectionism. Okay. Women have a hard time being imperfect. Right. The whole world's telling them just constantly telling women like, oh, like you're always right. You know, like when they tell men, when you're wrong, or when you're right, you're wrong, or something like that. That's the thing, when women are always right. And I feel like that trickles, or that kind of comes up with women's mindset. So when you say you're not being accountable, you're saying that, hey, you're not owning up to your mess ups. You're not owning up to your imperfections. You're not acknowledging where you need to get better, right? You're not looking in the mirror. Those are all things that can trigger, because now you're saying, okay, I'm not really perfect like I thought I was, or I'm not really this just complete thing like I thought I was. And that's hard to deal with, I think, as a woman. My experience.
The thing is that like, we didn't think that either though.
We didn't think what?
We didn't think that you were perfect. It's like you made that up in your head.
Right.
Like we never was like, yeah, my woman is perfect. My woman is gonna be
Right.
everything that I absolutely want her to be the second that I want it. Nah, it's almost like that self pressure that we tend to put on ourselves to be successful, to make money. It's like they put that within themselves to be perfect. But like again, like our women aren't putting that pressure on us to do that. Maybe indirectly, low key, right? But I don't believe we put that pressure on them indirectly
to be perfect.
No. I believe that's something that they put on themselves and they make up in their head. And, you know, I think a lot of times when they do that, it causes friction between the two of us. You know what I mean? Because you're getting mad. You believe that I'm expecting you to be this way when I never said I had that expectation of you. You know what I mean? So now you're trying so hard to be this, to be at the top, when it's like, yo, like I'm accepting you as is, and I'm willing to work with you as is to get us both better. You know what I mean? So I think women put that within their own minds.
So accountability, right? I feel like accountability is interesting. Do I feel like women have a problem with accountability? I'm going to say no. But I think they have a problem with how accountability is presented to them.
Okay.
Accountability through self-discovery, I don't think women have a problem with. When they discover, I need to be more accountable in this space, I don't think they have a problem with it. One thing I've realized when presenting moments of accountability is how to positively enforce the accountability. So rather than saying like, hey, yo, I see you falling short here, you praise when they did what they fallen short at. That's been something that I've learned that has actually worked for me in a major way, because we're men. We communicate differently than women. We complain all the time about how women communicate, but they have the right to complain how we communicate. So in meeting them where they're at, I think that's really important. So for example, if you see there's a deficiency in your woman, you tell her where there wasn't a deficiency in that same exact space in the time frame. So like, let's say this week was a terrible week. You'd be like, yo, last week, I really appreciated when you did these things. And the self-discovery it'll click in because she knows that she didn't do it this week. She knows that, but to just attack, because that's how it feels for them. It's an attack. Like, hey, yo, I ain't seen you do this week. That's how we communicate with each other. That's why it's so comfortable for us to communicate with each other that way. I tell Duke, hey, Duke, bro, like, you falling short. We can't say that to our woman. But that is our default. And within our default, we slight them the opportunity for self-discovery. Because like you said, you know that a woman shows up and she feels like she's perfect. So, and feeling like she's perfect, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you know, every woman feel like she's perfect, but nobody's doing anything to not be perfect. So if you have moments and you're like, yo, you fell short here, it's a really, really big pill to swallow. I like to enforce accountability with positive moments of when I did see them do what I feel like they're not doing. Even when I'm talking to my sister, when I'm talking to my partner, when I'm talking to a female cousin, because it's just easier to digest that way. And I like to speak from the place it's easiest for you to digest, not for me to present it. So do I feel like women having a problem with accountability in general? No, but I think it's easier when it's a self-discovery rather than you telling them you're not being accountable. It's just been the easiest way for me to present something.
I don't know, man. I really feel like they have a problem with it. And I feel like because it could be a plethora of reasons. One, you're a woman. People always doing things for you. Okay? In my situation, my woman is the youngest child and the only girl, right? So like in situations like that, it's like, man, her entire life, no one has really held her accountable.
Right. So it's kind of hard to expect that.
So it's kind of hard to expect her to be accountable. And it's not her fault. It's just like based off of her life experience. And I'm just using her as an example because I literally had time to think about, you know what I mean, our particular situation. So I feel like, you know, I'm still leaning towards that. I feel like women do have a hard time with accountability just because of their delicate position in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
their delicate position in the world causes them not to be accountable because we're so willing to say, we'll be accountable for
Right.
you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I think to piggyback on your point, anytime one group of people, everyone looks to this one group of people, which is man, like by default, I'm saying as leaders, then we can kind of defer all the things that's wrong with what's going on to them, because y'all the leaders of the world, right? Y'all create the problems. If y'all wasn't running the show, we probably wouldn't have many problems, right? So that's an idea. You get what I'm saying? And like you said, it's not their fault, but I do think there is a issue assuming accountability, and I don't think women can just a lot of women can just get there by self-discovery. You get what I'm saying? I think something has to come in, someone or something has to happen and say, hey, look, take a look at your behavior. Someone has to carry a mirror and say, hey, look here, because,
look at this.
Because women are going to walk by that mirror.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't, if no one comes in and says, hey, yo, you got to check this out, a woman's not going to stop to just correct that. Nah, she's not correct.
And even if she does stop, she'll find a way. This is like so metaphorical. She'll find a way to mask it. You know what I mean? If she does it herself.
Hey, look, I just wanted to see what you guys are going to say. I wanted y'all to dig deeper in y'all points. Okay.
Okay.
No, I think we all struggle with accountability on some level, but definitely in that space, the space that the world puts women at from, just being little girls, just growing up being a little girl as opposed to growing up being a little boy.
Yeah, it's just
different. Receiving no's your entire life as a little boy, as opposed to like, all right, you even hear fathers saying, if you have a girl, she gonna break you, like, because it's just that's just kind of the
Right.
way it is, you know. And I really believe that relationship, regardless, is going to make you have accountability. You're going to have to look at yourself at some point in time, you know. And it is important for, you know, men to hold women accountable, women to hold men accountable, but it's definitely important for men to hold women accountable if you want some sort of longevity to that relationship.
Yeah, I will say this. I will say it's not, in terms of getting that relationship that you want, it's not enough to just exist as the woman you are, okay? It's not enough to just exist with your natural feminine energy, behavior, mindset, whatever you want to call it. Jalon said this earlier. You have to channel whatever that is in a specific way to fit whoever you're working with, right? Whoever your partner is, because everyone's so different and unique, right? So having that accountability to say, you know what, I am happy with who I am, but I'm willing to change behavior. I'm willing to correct behavior. I'm willing to look in the mirror so I could do my part and compliment this man, you know, in order for it to work. I feel like if you take your accountability serious and I take my accountability serious, how can we lose? You know what I'm saying? How can we lose? Mm-hmm. But fellas, anything else?
No,
That's it? Okay,
that's
cool.
it.
Well, thank you guys for
12 million plus.
Thank you guys for tapping in with us. Thank you guys for watching and listening to us. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed to us on all streaming platforms. That's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you guys are following us on all social media platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. At Nice and Neat the Podcast. If you're watching this right now, go ahead and screenshot this. Post on your story. Tag us. Let us know what you thought about the episode. Comment if you're watching this on YouTube as well. Let us know what your favorite part was. Let us know what you took away, and also let us know what you would like to see moving forward. And yeah. Oh, also, last thing, go to law17.com right now. Go cop you a Law 17 signature L trucker hat right now. Those are back in stock. And yeah. Until next time, I'm Duke.
I'm Omar.
I'm Jalon, and this is another episode of Nice and Neat, and that's that on that. Peace.
I'll be the one to take the risk to go and get them bands. I'll be the one to never sit and go and make a plan. Knowing my mother getting old and I don't got no time. Gotta keep a couple for the road, the rest get left behind. Yeah. To the hundreds, pledge allegiance I stand.